Good morning.
Good morning.
Good morning.
This is a wonderful week, isn't it? Because it's World Book Week and there's wonderful children's books flying around all over the place. And we're delighted that Chris Haughton is joining us today, who is a favourite in the bookshop and a favourite in our house anyway. And good morning, Chris. Lovely for you to join us today.
Good morning. Thank you very much for having me. Yeah, pleasure to be on.
Excellent. So your books are extremely distinctive. I've got a few here around me, but they're very, very recognisable. So can you first of all tell us about your illustration style and how you create these wonderful little books that you do?
Well, thank you very much. Yeah, it came about, I started as a graphic designer. I studied that in college. So I was working in graphic design and then sort of wanted to do a bit more drawing. And so became a kind of illustrator and was doing that for a while for sort of design and ad agencies and stuff. So I think my graphic design, the graphic designer in me has sort of, this is a graphic designer making picture books, basically. I'm just doing it. Everything is kind of simple and as colorful as possible. And whenever I'm trying to communicate something, you know, whether it's an owl falling off a branch or whatever it is, it's to sort of just, you know, have everybody focus on that character and, you know, so I strip everything else back and let just the illustrations speak.
But what I love about your books is that you can put them all together. You say, oh, there's the little owl. You put them all together on a shelf and they all just, the palette that you use, it's so complementary. It's quite different with all the different books. So Tracy just held up A Bit Lost there, which was that your first one
that was the first
created?
Well, yeah, that was a pure accident, really, because when I was doing the first book, A Bit Lost, I wanted it to be as colorful as possible. So and then I was told, well, you need to have a text plate. So you print it with 4 colors and then you do a 5th plate, which is usually black. So it would usually be black. All the text would be black. And I thought, well, and my editor suggested, well, we could maybe swap it with a 1 color thing. So rather than black, it's green, and that actually gives. So it's 5 color printing then. So you get an extra color. So you can actually play with that extra color as well as the CMYK. So it's the graphic designer in me. Also, you know, and then once we did the first one, that was sort of this green color. Then the obvious thing was, we'll do that again, but with a different color. So, you know, we're sort of working our way through the rainbow with the with the text plates. Yeah.
And does the story come first or does the illustration come first? How do you work out the stories?
It always comes to me in a kind of, I think of a kind of before and after situation. So you know, with a Bit Lost, you know, that there's this and then that type of thing. And then with, say, Oh No, George, I kind of liked the idea of like an accident happening, that it was sort of based around like there's what's going to happen and then you turn the page and it's like, oh no. So it's a similar type setup, you know. It's kind of, you know, what will George do? He's presented with his cake and then, oh no, he eats it, you know, this sort of thing. And all of the books have the same type of thing where it's and often I do this with children a lot as well. You know, basically just take a sheet of A4, fold it in half, and, you know, draw a setup on the like imagine it's like a birthday card or whatever. On the front, imagine the setup, and then you open it and it's, oh no, what happens after, you know? And it's a good thing to think about, you know, you think of a character, of what they want, and then you open it up, and do they get it, or are they surprised by the result, or what happens? So that's basically that's all my books. You know, they're all variations on that. Like, so this one, Shh, We Have a Plan, is about these four. They look like hunters. We don't really know what they are, but they see this bird like that, and then they sort of, they're like that, and then you turn the page and, oh no, you know, they miss the bird and the bird flies away. So it's kind of like the Roadrunner sort of story, with this using the page turn.
It's extremely effective, and We Have a Plan has everyone in hysterics in our house. Because as you say, it's that sort of inevitability of it. Once you get that this is the setup, it's really great for kids to understand that's how the story works. Can I just show you that I just showed Tracy this beforehand. So this is our copy of A Bit Lost. Wow. In our house. I think this is high praise, actually. Of the
it
way,
is. No, there's no better. Yeah, I can see that's well read.
Yeah.
Wow. Yeah.
But it's not just me. We were looking on your website before we chatted to you this morning, and your books are translated into an insane number of languages. How does that work?
Yeah, well, this again was another accident that I kind of saw, because, well, I mean, I as a writer, I mean, I'm just a graphic designer, and I wanted to make a children's book, but I hadn't done any writing or whatever. So I thought, well, I'll just try and make the pictures tell the story, and and then I'll see what I can do. And so at the very beginning of my very first book, I was painfully trying to write the setup to this, like, oh, Mummy Owl and Baby Owl are here in the sunset or whatever. And then I just realized, well, I don't need to have any words in it, and I'll just say, uh-oh. And I kind of thought, oh, I'm kind of getting away with something here. I'm sort of writing a book without doing very much writing. But that very thing was what I think has helped the books, because it's the same in every language. It's the pictures that tell the story, and it communicates to very young children, and it communicates kind of universally. Like a funny thing about all of the books, which I only realized about 2 books ago, they all have kind of catchphrases that are really not words. So like sort of there was a word for it, but it's like uh-oh for A Bit Lost, and it was called uh-oh in Italian, and I was like, that's a much better title, because it could have been just uh-oh in every language, because that it basically is uh-oh, in every language. And then Shh, for this one, and oh no for George, but it whoosh in for this. They're not really words, they're just sort of exclamations, really, pre-literate words, or I don't know, pre-language.
That's very much the way the children talk, isn't it? I didn't get to share your books with my 2, because they missed it. They missed out. They're too old now. But I spend time with M's son occasionally, and that's the way he talks. It's uh-oh, whoosh, very basic. So you're speaking their language, and that's exactly what a writer needs to do.
Yeah. I mean, actually, like a lot of the ideas and stuff come from when you're trying to think of how do you actually speak to children? Another one of my books is called Goodnight, Everyone. There's dust everywhere. I've been doing up the house and just realized there's dust all over these. But Goodnight, Everyone is I was trying to kind of explain scale to young children. I was looking at there's a great film and book, Powers of 10, and it sort of just zooms out all the way out to the universe. And I was thinking, what a great visual thing to do. You turn the page and it goes out and out and out and out. And I thought that's a really nice idea for very, very young children, so they can see bigger, bigger, bigger. And then I was thinking, first of all, it was going to be an ant that was like meeting bigger and bigger animals. And it kind of wasn't really working. And then I was explaining it, you know, and thinking about explaining it to children and just going, what would you do? You bigger, 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 you know, and it's those actions. And then so I realized I needed to do an action that's bigger and bigger and bigger. And then I thought maybe a yawn, you know, and then so you yawn, a small yawn and a bigger yawn and a great big yawn. And that was you know, it was just literally how do you actually like show scale to a child? You sort of act it out, you know, you don't even think about it, but that's what the motherese, it's you know, it's sort of yes, and it's kind of singing almost to children before you're sort of speaking in proper language.
You talked about, you know, the sort of the work you do with the kids. How much of that consultation do you do with them when you're working out these ideas? I mean, do you like workshop ideas with schools or with young kids, or how do you test things out?
Yeah, I've always sort of shown my books when they're half finished. So you know, I mean, well, now actually I'm working on a book and I haven't shown it to children because, you know, lockdown and everything. But yeah, that might benefit that actually, because I am a bit stuck. But well, that started because, you know, after my first book, I was asked to do events, and you know, it's sort of they're 45 minutes or an hour, and I was thinking, you read my book in like 2 minutes, like what am I going to do for the rest of it? And then I just started showing them drawings and the really beginnings of Oh No, George, which was the second one. But it was really informative for me showing it to a class. Like I always try to think of, I used to teach English. I mean, years ago, I was in Hong Kong for a year and I was just teaching English as a foreign language. But I was teaching very, very young children and they didn't have very much English. So I was, and we were trying to read, we were reading books together and different things like that. But the only thing that kind of got through was if you sort of acted out. And I always imagine teaching one of those classes when I'm reading the book, you know, that's the sort of level that and you know that you have to get the class's attention, because I mean you can imagine
you have to work for it, don't you?
They're used to speaking Cantonese and like, you know, I have 2 words of Cantonese, so like just you have to get their attention somehow, and it was a challenge.
Now, you've got a new book coming out, haven't you? For those of us who are interested and have got everything else, can you tell us a bit about it? I don't know how much you can say at this point.
Yeah, well, I
I've
haven't
seen the cover on your Twitter.
Maybe. So it's about these. I could read the start of it, or I could.
Oh yes, please.
That would be great.
So maybe I will move around this way so you can see it. So it's about these little funny monkeys here. Okay, monkeys, I'm off. Now remember, whatever you do, do not go down to the mango tree. There are tigers down there. It's a pity we can't go down to the mango tree. Yeah, I love mangoes. That is a pity. Maybe we could just look at the mangoes. That'll be okay, right? Any tigers here? No. Any tigers there? No. No tigers anywhere. It's safe. Down, down, down to the trees below. And look. But look over here. I don't know if you can see that.
Oh, the little eyes.
Little eyes. There's a tiger. They haven't seen it. So many mangoes. Oh, there's one within reach, just over there. Look what's over here. Ooh. You can probably guess what's gonna happen. So anyway, they think about this one. Oh, yeah, maybe we could just get that little one, you know. They go down. They grab that little one. There's a squirrel hidden over here. I hide squirrels in all of this. They have the little one, and they say, "Oh, I wish we had another one, though." And maybe we could just go down there anyway. If there were tigers around, we'd have seen them by now. No tigers here. No tigers there. No tigers anywhere. Can anyone see any tigers? And look, all the mangoes. So, and oh no! So it's quite terrifying, that page. But
I
anyway.
love the unibrow though on all the tigers. That's quite a strong.
Yeah, they're quite different from a lot of my other artwork. I wanted to make them extra scary and sort of pop out. So there's a bit of a chase scene, and then they go all the way up like that. What's going to happen? Oh no! Are they going to get them? So yeah, well, I'll leave it there. Well, I leave it there. Yeah. So
What a cliffhanger.
Don't know what happens. That's no. They're very safe in the end. They work things out.
Brilliant.
Oh, were you going to say something, Tracy? I was going to say, what else? So the publication date for maybe is the 1st of April. That's still a month away. If people are dying to get a picture book in the meantime, what other books do you like?
Yeah, I'll show you some books I really enjoyed reading with my nieces, and so I've got a little pile of them here. One of my all-time favorites is this one, The Bear's Song by Benjamin Chaud, and it's this beautiful. Have you guys seen this? So there's the big bear, Daddy Bear, and Little Bear, and absolutely beautiful. Like, you can spend really a long time looking at all the different little things going on. It's got so many details, and it's really fun. But anyway, Little Bear runs off, and then Big Bear wakes up and realizes Little Bear is gone. So then you kind of have to look, where is Little Bear? And there's so many other things going on in the forest. These hunters are terrified of the Big Bear. And And Little Bear legs it into the city. So it's this, looks amazing. It looks like Paris or beautiful French city. It's French book originally, and goes to the theater as you would, you know, check it out, what's going on. And yeah, so each page you're kind of looking for Big Bear and Little Bear, but there's so many other things to see. And so Little Bear's over here. And yeah, in the end, there's Big Bear sort of ends up on stage. It's very entertaining. And then where is it? Oh yeah, we can see Little Bear over here. And then everyone's shocked to see a bear on stage, and he screams, roars. Everyone exits the building except for Little Bear, who's clapping. Great show, good one, Dad. And then they're up eating honey on a rooftop after the show. After show, I think it's brilliant, absolutely. One of my favorite books.
We love a book where it's got a solid story and solid illustrations, but actually where people can spend a lot of time in it talking about, can you see this, and the children spot things that no one else can. Which your books don't have, do they? But I love the starkness of yours as well, where it's really clear. And we are very fortunate to have a great graphic designer who works with us. And I can throw around the letter CMYK and pretend I know what I'm talking about. But to see these colors come together the way you use them almost communicates another thing altogether, whereas that book set in Paris, it's just fascinating how the colors and the lines and the amount of activity in the picture actually communicates toward the story itself, and people don't see that that's part of the story. Some people don't, they just see the words and think that that's the story, but so much more of it comes through. And that's one thing I personally, as a not part of the target market, I appreciate about your books, because I can see all of these things coming together. I'm going to keep an eye out for that one. I know of a particular parent who would love that.
There's a whole series of them, by the way, as well. I think there's 3 or there's at least 3, and they're all fantastic.
Brilliant.
So, yeah.
And I do want to see what else you've got, but I'm also struck by how where these books don't have humans in them.
Yeah, it is interesting. Well, I actually I was asked to comment on, there was a few years ago, these researchers had in Canada, that they had taken a picture book with it was about sharing and with animal characters, and they had read that book to various children in a sort of scientific setting, and then they'd photoshopped out the animal heads with human heads, and then they did it again, you know, and sort of, and then had this sort of test at the end, you know, are you willing to share more cake after reading this book and the other book? And their finding was that with the human characters, they were more willing to share the cake. And this was a complete, oh no, we've been reading all these animal stories when we should be reading them about humans. And I was thinking, that is completely, I mean, the setup is so flawed with this sort of thing. First of all, they're not instructions. Books are not instructions. They're and the thing about using animals is, well, the way I use animals is I make situations that really sort of grab your attention. So a little owl falling out of a tree and being lost in the forest is just one page, and suddenly everybody knows what that feeling might be like. If I did that with a human child, it would be horrifying. You can't immediately there's no situation where you can go, oh, there's a human child in the forest on their own. Like it's just, so you need to sort of, like, you can lose a human child obviously in a supermarket, but it would take a lot of explaining to get to that point. Oh, I'm here with my,
It becomes a completely different story, doesn't it?
Yeah. So I am just trying to dramatize an emotional response, and I'm doing that with all of the tools that I can, and using animals allows you to be more flexible with these things. I mean, this one is about a crab who wants to go into the ocean, and then they do go in the ocean, and it's a wonderful, amazing world down there in the ocean. I mean, I could do it about a child who just wants to go in the ocean, but it wouldn't, it would just be them with some armbands in the ocean. They don't have their head under. It's not a sort of immersive feeling where you're like, wow, it's a whole other world in there
that he belongs in.
Yes, yeah. And but so I chose an animal that this book is about sort of overcoming your fears and being brave and doing new things. So this visualizes that feeling, and you can only do that really, or you can most effectively do that with animals, because it gives this sort of poetic license, and it would be too shocking as like if a human went through that sort of.
And I'm really fascinated with your response, because what I'm hearing is that by using the animals, it opens up what you can do and lets you take more risks in a very safe way. Whereas I'd always understood the purpose of using animals in a children's book is because they are helpless and small and not yet achievers in society. But I much prefer your answer, actually, that you're able to expand it, and that it's a much safer way of telling a bigger story. I also I realize I've completely derailed the conversation, because we had asked you to tell us about the books that you have enjoyed, but I want to still talk about your books for a moment longer, if that's okay. I'm really impressed that your books start with a quote from some quite serious names, philosophers, writers, and so on. So Don't Worry, Little Crab, which you were just describing about how little crab is worried about even getting its little crabby feet wet at first, and then it discovers that it actually loves it in the deep, deep sea. I don't know how to pronounce the name. Is it Anais?
Anise, I think. Anise.
Life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. That's the perfect quote that all of us can take away from this. And then you get into the little dialogue, like little crab takes a step. But for the rest of us, life shrinks or expands in proportion to one's courage. That's something that I could live by. And I have not read all your books. Do you do it with every book?
With every book, yes. Yeah, I really enjoy. I mean, I try to think of something. It's a really interesting sort of process for me, because I make this book and I'm kind of thinking all the time, what is it about? What is it that is the most? Is this emotive thing? And each one has some sort of, I wouldn't say message, but a sort of question. Because I don't have messages for people. It's just asking people questions, and then they can come with these things. So yeah, I mean, again, I started with a bit lost, and I was just thinking, hey, this is a funny story about a lost owl, and then looking at literature. Well, what's the most famous lost character? Oh, Robinson Crusoe. And then so I took a quote from that, which basically in beautiful English basically says you don't know what you've got until it's gone, and that's something we can all identify with, whether you're a lost owl or Daniel Defoe or Robinson Crusoe or whoever you are, and yeah, all of the. I mean, I quite like that. You know, it's what's the one in maybe. It was Aristotle in maybe, but yeah, I was quite pleased. For the things we have to learn before we can do, we learn by doing. So it's kind of about, I mean, it's this catch-22 of the only way of learning things is by actually doing it, but you can't do it until you learn how. Yeah, so.
That's so inspiring to see the two together, the big quotes with the really accessible messages. What other books did you, because you scurried off before we were recording and got a stack of books, so I don't want to prevent you telling us what's in your stack.
Yeah, no. Well, I've got, how many have we got time for? I've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8.
Well, if I don't ask you lots of questions about each one, we probably have plenty of time.
Well, another one of my absolute favorites is Hoot Owl by Sean Taylor and Jean Julien. And it's one of my favorites to read out. It's this very funny character. Watch out, I'm Hoot Owl, I am hungry, and here I come. Hoot Owl is trying to eat everyone up and sort of fails miserably, and is dressing up in costumes to try and catch a rabbit, and anyway, it just runs away. But it's very, very entertaining. I really love Sean Taylor's writing, and Jean Julien is a fantastic illustrator. This one here is all the rhymes that I grew up with, and it's favorite rhymes from Irish childhood, Sarah Webb and Steve McCarthy. But it's brilliant. I mean, they're just all the traditional Irish, I mean, and English. Molly Malone, I'll Tell You a Story by Jack and Nori, which is, yeah, it's Monday's Child. You know, it's a lot of it's really beautifully illustrated as well.
What is it actually called?
Oh, A Sailor Went to Sea. There's what else? I love John Klassen's work. He's has a new one coming out, I think, quite soon. That's one of my favorite. I love his Hat books. That's fantastic. What else? Edvire, Bedtime for Monsters. That's one of my favorite of Ed's. It's just very funny, and there's like, it's this monster who comes, and it's sort of built up, you know, oh, the monster, maybe he's licking his lips thinking about you, and here's the monster coming, heading towards your house, and then there's he just to give you a kiss in the end. It's not going to eat you up at all, don't worry. What else? Owl Babies. I'm sure you all know. I mean, that's one of my favorites. More unusual ones. I guess this is still in print, but this is so funny. James Marshall, Space Case. Have you come across that?
I don't know that one.
This alien that lands on Earth and is kind of thinks Earth is kind of boring, but actually arrives at Halloween and dresses up with the kids, and they all hang out, and it really enjoys Halloween, and sort of isn't noticed. They just think he's trick-or-treating, and it's very, very funny. yeah, he comes to meet the natives who are not especially friendly, and then, but at the corner of Maple and Elm, some interesting folks appeared, and then they just hang out for a while. What else? There's this one I don't have in English, but it's I love Planeta Tangerina. This one is called Don't Cross the Line.
We've had that in the shop.
You do, yeah.
We have had this, yes.
It's so clever. It's just this funny. It's almost wordless, a lot of it. There's a guard, and then there's all these characters appear. The guard is protecting this boundary here, and then people are coming along, and he's like, stop. And basically, all the characters build up on this one side of the page, and then I think, yeah, ball bounces over, and they anyway, they sort of go through the line anyway. But there's also lots of funny things going on in the background, so it's not nice to sort of point out things, and they all go through anyway.
It's a fantastic book, but it caused me a very awkward moment because I was asked for a recommendation for a grandparent, and I picked that book up and talked her through it, same as you've just talked us through it. And she went very quiet, and I knew something wasn't right. And she said, it's perfect. It would be perfect, but she was actually buying for a child who lived in a very closed country with a lot of censorship and where there's not freedom of speech. And she said, I don't think I can get away with it. I think it's exactly what we need. It's exactly what we need. But she didn't buy that book. She bought something safer.
Yeah, no, I know. Yeah. Well, it's quite political, I suppose.
It is quite political if you choose to read it that way. But actually, if it's just, cross the line, go get the ball.
I know. Yeah. It's so what else? Yeah, I mean, maybe that's enough for now.
Well, we could just share children's picture books all day long. Especially Em's got her target, her audience there, her captive audience.
Hello.
So I think he's part of the wear and tear on her copy of the book. That's Casper. And he's the one who says things like uh-oh and whoosh and wow, I think is one of your big words, isn't it, Casper?
Can you say hello? Can you say, because you like this book, don't you? Who's in it? Who is in it? Owl. It's an owl.
Owl, very good.
What does he say when he falls off the tree? Does he say, uh-oh? Uh-oh. Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Actually, that's one thing I love about, one thing I love about your books, Chris, is that Casper's 2, we've been reading a bit lost to him since he was pretty much born, but we can still have a great conversation about it with his brother, who's 7. And I mean, I think that's what's really wonderful about picture books, and particularly that one you just showed us with the line down the middle, is that even when they're wordless, and maybe especially when they're wordless or very scant of word, there's just so much to get out of them, even beyond the kind of picture book age. And I just think it's why it's something that just continues to fascinate me. They really are just a book for just such a large age range of children.
It's very true. Actually, there's some fascinating. I did a little course in CLPE, the Centre for Literacy in Primary Education, and Charlotte in there. They do sort of discussions around picture books for up to 12 years of age children, and they do things like they just show the cover without any text, and have a discussion about that, and the way that they sort of ask each other questions, and it's just a class discussion. Put up your hand if what do you think's going on here, what do you think's going to happen next. And it was so interesting to me that that week-long course or was just fascinating. And I they had a lot of literature about this process, and one of them, oh gosh, I can't remember the name of the title, but it's by Mary Roach, and she's a teacher who's spent her life teaching, and realized that rather than sort of teaching in a sort of didactic way, to sort of teach, to just have a discussion around picture books. So she was having these discussions in her class about what the children thought, and they got so engaged, and she videoed and took audio of examples of what was said, and she wrote a PhD about it. But it's so interesting, like it's basically critical thinking, it's teaching critical. In fact, I think that's the title. It's critical teaching in picture books or something like that. But moving from, because this is the sort of thing, we read a story and we take it literally, and then we sort of read between the lines and go, what is this author trying to actually say? And these discussions are so important with sort of media today and always, that it's not just about reading and understand. It's about really, well, what is the message here, and is that message correct, or what, being critical about the text, and it was really fascinating. But there's so much to sort of, it allows you that space, I think, to just having it in pictures, and then discussing the pictures and saying, why did they choose to have it as an animal, or as two characters rather than one, or this sort of thing.
It's really good to hear that it is getting the serious attention that it deserves, because this is how we're educating our young children, and how we're getting them ready for other books, and how we're shaping their views of the world. So it's fascinating to hear that someone is really looking at it properly. I'm going to thank you for your time and wish you a happy World Book Week, and say that we can't wait to see what you come out with next. So thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you, guys. Really lovely to be here.
Okay, thanks again. Bye.
Bye.
Bye.